Mi cara madre. Hola. Okay, I wanted to, as we move along and I talk to a lot of you, and especially as we share experiences with each other, which you guys that you're telling me stories about, you guys that are telling me stories about your experiences with psychedelics and with spiritual endeavors and such and mystical experiences. You better fucking share that shit, dude. I'm not fucking with you here. This is a big one. You have 1 week left. Get that shit up. Don't be a fuck guy. Don't be a fucking pussy. So I'm here taking the vanguard, and I'm going to share one of my best experiences first and foremost to ensure that you guys, don't feel like you're the first ones. Which that doesn't really work often, does it? I mean, I'm always the first person and usually the only to go ahead with any of these themes, and you guys are still afraid for some reason. Although you talk days and nights about it on fucking Messenger. I mean, what, you afraid of tainting your reputation? What the fuck? What is it you're afraid of here? You post those experiences. Get that fucking shit up there. I'm not fucking around with you, man. Every one of you. I'm thinking about three in particular, but all of you. Get an experience up there. Something that matters. A life changing experience. Something that taught you a lesson. Uh, you know, your greatest love, your greatest fear, something, that fear you overcame, your rock climbing, your hang gliding, your best or baddest trip, whatever it is. Now, uh, first and foremost, before all other things, I need to state that I am, as are most members of the foundation, an alchemist at heart, an alchemist in the purest sense of the term, wherein I never had any instruction in this. I didn't know what I was doing. I was testing, using myself as the guinea pig. I was testing and figuring things out of my own accord, and based on what I was capable of achieving, and really just basically what I could get my hands on, what I thought it would do. I didn't, we didn't have the internet when I was a psychonaut. We didn't have the internet, so this wasn't like you go to the library and you could get very few books that would tell very, very little about these subjects. It's not the same world. A lot of us were experimenting with ourselves, and I was the extremist. I did every fucking thing there was to do. I tried every combination. Like, I wanted to figure out these things and see what they could do and see how far I could go. And I wanted to put myself ahead of everyone else to ensure that I knew what was coming for anybody that followed in my footsteps, and that I could keep the hazards at bay and watch out for you, because even then, before I started training, I guess I was a spotter at heart, and my spotter could tell that. You know, she saw that I learned quickly, that I was always kind of on the fringe of these things. I was very, very heavily motivated in the field, and I moved very fast because most of it seemed to be kind of common sense to me. And by the time I got in touch with her, experiences of this nature had become, uh, you know, in some way normal to me. I mean, not normal, but they were, I'd already experienced dream works, I had already experienced projections, I'd already experienced psychedelics to a great degree, and experimented with them, and it was not something that was new to me. However, she, my spotter, was against the use of chemical triggers. So, I didn't have instruction from her either, and it wasn't the sort of experiences that we were going after. She trained me in Kundalini, to activate the Kundalini impulse. And she wanted me to take the very long route, which is a lifetime of learning to balance it, prepare for it. And I did not do that. I used chemical triggers, and I jumped ahead, and I took the shortcut route because that was the type of person I was, an extremist. Move fast, get things done faster, push it to the limit, take the risks. And that was not the reason. It wasn't because it was risky. She wasn't afraid of it. And to this day, I still haven't caught up with her, although I'm getting pretty close. I understand how she did some of the things that she was able to do back then. Now I'm getting pretty close to the level that she was at, or at least, close to the level that I was aware she was at. But ultimately, in any case, back to it, being an alchemist, I look at everything that I encounter, everything I come in contact with as being, uh, you know, even immaterial factors as being a substance that can be utilized as a tool. Everything is a tool. So in my mind, everything's a drug. And there are many people who disagree completely, and they think that natural things, marijuana, psilocybin, natural substances should not be called drugs. But that's because of the stigma that our society, particularly our modern American society, has placed on these substances and drugs in general, which you think is kind of ironic considering that we're the world's leading drug pushers, aren't we? And we're pushing bad drugs, which to get to that point of fact, a lot of people like to make a distinction between drugs and natural medicines, but they're both chemical triggers and they both activate chemical responses and they're both shortcut mechanisms. And that's, I consider everything from nicotine to caffeine to psilocybin to LSD to fucking heroin to be a drug. Except I'd like to make a clear distinction between what is a drug and what is a narcotic. Anything that's man made, anything that is synthetic, anything that is unsafe is a narcotic. And it shouldn't be fucked around with, especially experimental things like the crap that they're feeding the kids nowadays. Any one of you that's on antidepressants and shit like that, they don't know what that is. You don't know what that is. Nobody knows what that is, what it does. They're experimenting on you with it right now. And some of the shit that this stuff has done to people is unfucking believable. They gave it to me once, and I wound up in a very precarious situation, sleepwalking, not knowing what I was doing half of the time because I have one of those rare genetic structures that reacts in that way. And a lot, it's rare, but people do have this. There are some people who are in prison right now because they murdered their entire families sleepwalking because of these fucking drugs, which are narcotics. They're both drugs and narcotics. I make the distinction between narcotics and just drugs, which to me, peanut butter is a drug. It alters the way that I feel. It alters the way that I maneuver. It activates certain value triggers. So that's what a drug is to me. So when I use the word drug, that's what I mean. I mean something that's a value trigger. I do not mean, I'm not going to be able to stop myself from using the word drug all the time for every different thing because they are drugs to me. They always have been. I'm an alchemist. I consider everything to be a chemical trigger utilized to access different values and effectively alter my abilities. So totally got lost on that one. Anyway, um, when we talk about experience, we want, like I said, we want your life lessons. We want your life altering experiences. We want the things that, you cherish, the experiences that you think you've learned from that you want to share because they have an impact to them. We want you to share your values. We want you to give us all your cherished values, the things that you think are important that made you who you are and why you think it's a good thing, and just share with us. And if it's fun, if it's a fun story and that's why you want to share it, fine. If it's the most holy, magical story that you've ever known, and it changed everything about who you are and it showed you the reality of God, and share it. If it's a funny little 5-minute fucking clip of your life, share it. Give us something. Don't be fucking, don't be stingy with your shit. Share your values with us. It doesn't cost you anything but a few moments of your time. Jesus Christ, stop being so lazy. Scared. So, going ahead to be the first one to share on this topic particularly, I'm gonna jump right off the cliff in the bottom of the fucking basin. Dimethyltryptamine. Now, I've been through some shit. I've done some crazy, crazy fucking drugs. I've done different combinations. I've experienced things that, hell and high water, the icy depths of the abyss. I've been there. anywhere that you can think of, your greatest heavenly dream, your lowest hellish nightmare. I've been there through different drugs and through different psychedelic experiences, and especially through DreamWorks. The natural, long term, long route way to get there is actually the most effective. It's just the most difficult as well. It takes the most discipline, and it takes a well, now it's something I could do very quickly, but that's because I'm actually moving very, very fast now. It took me a long while to get there, but I continue to speed up every day. So any one of you can get there. And what used to take us years and years and even a lifetime to train people, I can almost guarantee you I can get across in a matter of days now. So, you know, just a heads up. Some of you initiates who are out there slacking off, if you put a little bit into it and give it, a good span of time and attention, I can get you there pretty quickly. And then you'll have a lot more time and a lot more attention. Believe me, you'd be amazed. Uh, so, dimethyltryptamine, that's something else. Been all over the place, seen all the different aspects, all your sci fi fantasies, you know, uh, things that, people wrote the damn Bible about. I've seen it. Everyday experiences. DMT is something else. It's a different kind of experience. It takes you to a different world. It's not like tripping out like, oh, I see colors and trails and the walls are melting. No, you're not here anymore. Go somewhere else. A lot of people talk about this breakthrough experience, as they call it, where they smoke enough, 2 hits or 3 hits or some such odd, 70 milligrams or some such shit, and they go through some kind of a tunnel and they break through. They go through like a tunnel of geometric figures and they break through the other side, and it's super scary and dramatic and roller coaster ride. And they have to. Sometimes you get stuck there and you can't get through and you have to take another hit, but you can't hold the pipe, and just all these crazy stories about it. And they've really enlightened me. Oh, pause. Speaking of enlightenment, some of the crazy videos I'm seeing, people who are saying, because I'm watching these videos in preparation for the upcoming project. I want to be prepared because I haven't been in the psychedelic field for a long time. I got to get back into that, and I'm going to actually be retrained in that aspect and have somebody more experienced than I am teach me. So that would be Miguel, our new director, who is more experienced by far than I am in this regard, and has a lot to teach me, and I can't wait. But um, a lot of these people that make these videos, they're jumping to these questions about, well, there's got to be something mystical. There's got to be another level to reality. There has to be something in the mythologies. Maybe the Egyptians weren't crazy. Maybe the Tibetan Book of the Dead has some reality to it. Okay, I need to bolt it down right now to the floor. Status is operating under the assumption that we all understand that, yes, of course, there are other levels of existence. Yes, of course, there is a lot of truth to many of these stories. Yes, of course, these things are real. It's not even like some people want to say maybe there's reality to the supernatural. It's not supernatural. It is just natural. These things are natural occurrences. We don't know them, a lot of us, because of the stigma that's placed upon anything that alters our view. And the reason for that is not because using these substances is going to melt your brain like the old egg, fucking cracked open egg, this is your brain on drugs bullshit. No, they don't want you to use them. And, I do not believe at all that they think anything bad is going to happen to you. That's a ridiculous claim to make. There's no evidence to back that. Very, very few instances of people run into any fucking negative side effects other than being scared, freaking out, facing their own demons and freaking out. It's very unlikely any of these substances, these natural substances, are ever going to damage you in any way. Unless you, like, can't see that well and you slap your head into something. I don't know, but it's not. These things are natural. They are, in fact, there for a reason. They don't grow out there for no reason. They're there for a very specific reason, and it's not, as a food additive. This is what they're there for. Because you cannot access certain values. There's parts of yourself that are locked up that you cannot get to without experiencing these things. If you haven't had these sorts of mystical experiences and you are not operating under the assumption that a lot of it is true and real, then A, you're not prepared for a whole hell of a lot, and B, just you need to. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go out and try, mushrooms. And again, I'm not talking about like LSD. I'm not talking about acid. I'm not talking about any man-made synthetics. I'm talking about natural substances, um, plants. Mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, dimethyltryptamine, things like this are naturally occurring substances that are in fact growing out there in the wild for a purpose. And this is the purpose, because there are parts of yourself that you cannot access, parts of your imagination, places in the psyche you can't get to, aspects of who and what you are that you will never know about if you do not have these experiences. And so it is highly recommended that you get over that stigma. If you see something that's developed in a laboratory drugs, synthetic garbage, yeah, stay away from that. By all means, stay the fuck away from that. But these other things, the mushrooms, the DMT, these things are there to serve this purpose. And it's if you're ready for it, if you feel like it's something you'd like to experience, look into it, do your homework, and think about it, because there's nothing bad about it. It's going to help you, no matter how you look at it. Even if you have a bad trip, it's going to be helpful to you, and it's going to change who you are in a fundamental way that will be positive for you throughout the remainder of your life, and that will never go back. You have a trip out experience for maybe 6 to 12 hours or what have you. On DMT, it's more a few minutes or so, but the values that it installs, the programming that it installs, and in fact, the programming that it uninstalls, and the glitches in your mind that it fixes, that lasts forever. It's like it is essentially a kind of a way of in rebooting your system. I'd say using psilocybin mushrooms. DMT is a different kind of thing, but mushrooms is a good way to reboot your system and recoup your operating system. In any case, what was I even saying? We don't know a lot about these things and these experiences because there's a stigma placed upon it, because people are fighting to keep us away from it. And the reason is not because they believe, I do not believe at all, that they think it's going to harm us. It's because they're worried that if you do these things and you experiment with this and you access these values and expand your awareness in this way, that you just might wind up like me, driven, careful, unwilling to let them fuck you over every chance they get, smart enough to get around it, fast enough to stay ahead of them. And if there's enough of us like me that are as driven as I am and careful enough, if enough of us are as sharp and as fast as I am and some of the members of the foundation, and we're working together, big fucking changes will be made very quickly and easily. But we're trying to get there. Anyways, I've gone on long enough about all this stuff. Tangentials, DMT. I get this stuff and I'm unsure about it. I never saw it before. The smell of it's kind of odd. It's familiar. The smell of it, especially when you actually smoke it, it's like this scent is like the mothballs in grandma's closet, like the mothballs in your grandmother's perfume closet. It's like this unrealistically nostalgic, familiar kind of scent taste to it. It's very familiar and it's very nostalgic, and that familiarity is the part that gets me, honestly. I'll get back to that. As I was saying earlier, people talk about having these breakthrough experiences where they go through some kind of wacky tunnel and roller coaster ride and stuff. It wasn't like that for me, and I'm going to hypothesize that it's because I, in fact, do live on the boundary. I found the way to the edge, to the boundary, to the wall, the outer edges of life through many other differing avenues than psychedelics. I've done it through dream works. I've achieved a fusion between the dream and this world, and in fact they are the same now. And I've achieved a fusion between myself and the language that I use. And in fact, through language, I've reached the boundary to the point where words are showing you the wall, the writing on the wall, literally. And these are things that I'd love to teach you guys. And some of you are showing interest in it, but beyond the point, I can, is what I'm saying. If you're interested, ask. I will tell you all about this. It's amazing stuff. But I've reached the boundary through many different avenues to the point where I do, in fact, live on it. I am consistently there at the edge. Every move I make, everything I see, I'm at the very edge of life. I'm moving fast enough to see most of the things, most of the cues that the world gives to me, the communications that come through the boundary. I'm able to see as they happen for the most part. I'm not fast enough to keep up with them, but I see them. And I live kind of on the boundary all the time. And that's what I think is because of the values that are in play and the way that I'm organized, the arrangement that I'm made of, that I am close enough to where I don't have to take 2 or 3 or 70 milligrams or whatever, because I didn't like it. I was afraid of it. I'd done salvia, which was pretty close, and that scared the shit out of me, some of the things that happened. And so I was weary of it. And I took a little tiny hit, and I didn't kind of want to, like I was scared of it. And I certainly didn't hold that hit in because I saw it coming on. I felt it, and I knew what it was. I took a little tiny hit, and I mean, what I saw, I took a little tiny hit. I held it in for a couple seconds. That flavor, that nostalgic familiarity to it. I saw out of the corner of my eye something happening. Just not just a peripheral something. I look over and I see on the table at Scumaden. Scumaden was our old headquarters, a tiny little house where Boob and Megan and I all stayed for a while. I see the color on the table and on the objects on the coffee table in the living room just kind of start to lift a little bit, like it was embossed, and then it started to wave coming at me, and then it just started to fall off in ribbons. The color itself was coming off in like neon ribbons, and it was floating towards me. And as soon as it got to me, I felt it. I remembered it. And I knew that feeling. I knew what was coming. I knew what it was. And the only thought I had in my head was, holy shit, here we go. And then I fell back. I closed my eyes. I lost all sense of self. I fell back. My eyes closed, and the world just opened. There was no tunnel. There was no roller coaster ride. There was just like a little hole open, and the whole new world opened, and the old world was gone. And I was in this giant dome kind of structure that was all diamond eyeballs, is how I could describe it. I could feel and sense the presence that each one of these little things, these little crystalline objects, were eyes that were watching me. They were all watching me, all eyes on me. I was center stage. Everything was watching me, paying close attention to me, no blinking, just all eyes on set here. And I was center stage. And the whole world was just focused on me, concentrating. And they were just teeny tiny little diamond eyeballs, like glowing with the rainbow coronas coming off of them. The most amazing, like this was the most abrupt and just like brutally astonishing experience I've ever had in my entire life. This is not something I had ever anticipated. It is just this world made of these objects that were like shining perfectly crystal clear, like to the point where they almost seemed embossed. Uh, just objects, and it's teeny tiny objects made up everything. There wasn't any like solid. There's this giant dome of these teeny tiny diamond eyeballs all watching me and like following me. And so I walked over, and I'm pretty sure I actually stood up in Scumaden, and I walked over the room, and I was talking to Boob. I was still communicating because I made that fusion between here and the perpetual and ephemeral self. So I'm capable of doing that. I was still talking to Boob. I was trying to tell him what was happening, but really the only kind of sense that could come out of me, the only language that I could produce was like, holy shit, man. Like like wow was pretty much all I could say about this, and nothing else to be communicated. I walk over in this dome, and I'm walking an enormous dome. Like the dome gets bigger as I'm moving. It's just so enormous. And the floor is like, the floor is so flat and so precise. It's so wax that it's just like it's not even there. Like I'm walking on a sheet of nothing at all. Like glass that's so fucking so smoothed over. It's non-existent. And I walk over a little ways and I see something. I don't know what it is, but it's moving. So I go towards it, and very quickly I approach this thing. It's like every step that I took in the real world was like 20 steps there. Real world, mind you, please. I'm using language that comes to mind because I'm a human. This is not. If I had to say one world was real and the other wasn't, I would not say that this is the real one for certain. This world was perfect, and it was geometrically sound. So it was alive. There was something living to this world in every aspect of it. It was alive, and I was aware of it. It wasn't like in this world where I can see that there's a living presence in the world, but I kind of have to be caring enough to view it. And when it comes through, sometimes it has to poke at me to get my attention. No, this was bright, gleaming brilliance of a perpetual God figure in everything, just consistently glaring at you, and there was no escaping the totally fucking total knowing and understanding of its presence, and your connection to it. It was like the way that I do feel about this world and this life amplified just by millions and millions of times, unbelievably. So I'm walking over very quickly. I get to the edge where this thing is, whatever it was, and it looks like a person, and they're wearing a suit jacket like mine, but it's like split down the middle, and it's checkered like black and white, just big checker. It looked like the jacket that Two-Face wears in Batman, and in fact, this dude looked like Two-Face from Batman. He looked like a mixture between the Joker and Two-Face from Batman, and he was two-dimensional. But he could move around in 3 dimensions, but he was two-dimensional. So it was like a figure that was like a flat face that would kind of shift, and he was just very quickly moving. And he's reaching back at something, and I can't see what he's reaching at. I can't see what he's doing, but he's reaching somewhere, and he's moving very rapidly. And he turns to me, and he's got this look on his face. He's got this look on his face like he didn't say anything. He never said anything to me. Didn't really communicate anything. He's got this look on his face like he's having a ball, this guy, and he's moving very quickly over here, and he's having a great time. He's got a big old smile on his face, and the only real thought I had in my mind at the time, I had this knowing. I just had this sense of knowing, though I couldn't see it, that what he was doing was this guy was he was reaching behind the curtain, and he was pulling the ropes and manipulating the props in the stage play of my life. He was reaching behind the scenes of my life, and he was maneuvering the levers, and he was making my life happen. And he was the director of the stage play that is my existence, and I was the star of the show, and that's the knowing I had. And but all I could think at the time when I looked at him is, my God, this dude is obnoxious. Like this guy's fucking obnoxious. And so I just kind of like blew it off, and I turned around and I walked into the bathroom in Skoomeden. By this time it was fading, and I was coming back to here. Things were kind of merging, but I still had this sense when I went in the bathroom, this feeling of, oh, here I am again. Like I had been in this place for eternity. Wherever I was, I had been here forever, and it was unchanging. It was just this one place, and I've always been there, and I just kind of forgot that I was there for a little while. But oh, here we are again. Was kind of the feeling that I had, the sense of it. It was very nostalgic and very melancholy, and that's the only thing. Like I said, this was the most amazing experience I ever had. There was nothing bad about this at all. It was super fucking awesome, but I'm still afraid of it because of that feeling and that texture to it, that melancholy, nostalgic foreverness to it. It's just very lonely, something about it. And of course, you've seen my videos, you know what my understanding is, so you get where that's likely coming from. Either that is the reality of the situation, or it is at least the reality that I'm creating based on my understanding. So you can see where that's coming from, this loneliness, this onlyness, and this foreverness, eternality. Anyways, that's what gets me. That's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to go back there, but this place was beautiful and it was totally amazing. So I'm not too fearful. I'm a little nervous, cautious going forward with this, but we're gonna start training pretty soon. I'm not afraid. I'm gonna make this shit happen, and if I have to jump ahead of everybody on everything, I'm gonna do it because eventually somebody's gonna start following. So uh, that is my experience with dimethyltryptamine. Oh, I forgot the best part. When it's coming back, when it's fading back, I come out of the bathroom, I sit down in front of Boo, and I look at him. He's watching me. He's waiting for me to tell him something. He's just looking into my eyes, and I did not feel like I didn't feel like I was looking into a mirror. It didn't seem like it was a reflection to me. There's nothing like that. I was not out of my, out of this body. I was just me sitting there looking at him, perfectly aware that I was me looking at him, but at the same time, I had this feeling and this sense and understanding in my head that was like, have I been booed the whole time? Like, I'm looking at him and he's me. He is me and I am him. And I'm like, I've been booed this whole time. That was like, wow. This whole time I didn't know that I was actually him. That's that's the feeling I had, the sense of it, and then it faded, and I was back, and I just started laughing my ass off because there was nothing I could do, nothing I could do to explain to him what had just transpired. Um, and that was my experience with dimethyltryptamine, and there are going to be more. Hopefully, by the end of this cycle, there will be another one that I can give to you, and there are many, many other cool experiences that are even wackier in certain senses than that with other things. And of course, I have experiences that are non-medicine related experiences that I can give to you. But I wanted to start with that because I was inspired by the videos I've been watching in order to prep for this project. So, and plus, I want you guys to sack up, grab your fucking balls out of your purse, and start telling us about your experiences. I've gone ahead and I've done it, and mine's the only reputation on the line here. Nobody, I'm the only person. I'm the face of this thing. I don't I don't represent the totality of it, but I am the representative of it. So, it's not like you guys are risking anything by telling us a story. It's not coming back to you. I'm the only person that has to worry about my reputation being damaged here. So I'm telling you mine. I'm proud of it. It's something that we should all, talk about, something that we should all have experienced by now. Is it really there are facets to life that you cannot be the ultimate you without having experience. And these are some of them. So I'm encouraging you all to, experience. I'm encouraging you all to have experiences, and I'm very highly encouraging you to get the fuck on and share them with us before this cycle ends. You have 1 week remaining. Be excellent in everything you do. Maintain your excellence and kick ass. Get on the edge. Move fast. Live hard. Be awesome. Love you guys. Kila Salai. I shall see you. I shall see you the next time. Which there should be several parts to this, obviously, because there are too many experiences to share. I'm rapidly becoming aware that this is a greater topic than we can cover in the scope of even 2 or 3 videos. So there will be more soon. So until then, be well, be careful, be safe, be fucking awesome and loving and excellent. Namaste.